All right. Let me play a little bit of sombering music for the topic today at hand. As we all know, Boston fans, we are absolutely struggling. We're crying. We're asking for what is the reason why. And let me turn on my camera just in 1 second. What is the reason why we are struggling? You know, as a Boston Celtics fan, my whole life, well, maybe not my whole life, ever since maybe, I would say I was probably, at the age when Ray Allen officially moved over to the Celtics from Seattle, KG from Minnesota to Boston. Like, that was the time. And even just kind of learning the history of the game, as someone who loves the history of the game, I love looking back at not only just stuff from the 80s, stuff from the 90s, but also looking back even to the 40s, just to see how much different the game was compared to how it is today. And what I've noticed and what I've seen variously throughout the whole years is that the Boston Celtics have been a staple franchise in the NBA for as long as I can remember. From the times of the Bill Russell era, the Red Auerbach, the Casey Jones, the John Havlicek, just so many great and amazing Boston Celtics players that have gone through, the old TD Garden, but, just the idea of TD Garden, the checkered floors, the way that the stadium looks, the way that everything is as it pertains to the Boston Celtics. There were so many great things that come from this great organization, right? There's so many amazing players, so many amazing owners, so many amazing GMs that have honestly really done a great number as to why the Boston Celtics are where they're at this year, where they're at in terms of, I would say, basketball lore history, right? 17 championships, along with the Lakers now, who also have 17 championships. But for the longest time, the Boston Celtics were regarded as one of the best franchises to ever kind of exist, just because of the fact that they have always wanted excellence no matter what time period. We all remember that time period, at least, for my 2000s kids or even my 90s people. We remember those days where Boston was really bad, right? We remember the days where you had Doc Rivers with so many bad teams, so many horrible teams, until that 2008 trade happened. And when that trade happened, it was a miracle. It was something that breathed life into the Boston Celtics, which hasn't been seen since probably the 80s for the Boston Celtics, since Larry Bird. And just that championship success with guys like Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett, and just kind of continuing that legacy led to the 17th championship. Now, we're here in 2020 or 2021, as I forget my time era, I forget my years. The one thing that you can say about this Boston Celtics team under Coach Brad Stevens, especially, it went from Doc Rivers, then it was like, okay, we're going to hire Brad Stevens, hired in 2013 as the person to take place of Doc Rivers, who has ultimately taken us to places where we would never seen before. And now in 2013, Brad Stevens, we look at the record, and I'm going to show you guys here on the live scene so you can understand what I'm looking at. Brad Stevens in 2013 took over the Boston Celtics, went 25-57. This was not Boston's best team. If we look at the roster here, you had Joel Anthony, Chris Babb, Brandon Bass, Jared Bayless, Keith Bogans, Avery Bradley, but not, and Avery Bradley, that was, supposed to be a top player for us. Jordan Crawford, Jeff Green, Kelly Olynyk, Rajon, Jared Sullinger, Gerald Wallace. Like, this roster, you look at it and you're saying, okay, this is definitely not a winning championship roster, and the record proved it as they went 25-57. Now we fast forward to 2014, 2015, when we look at this roster for the Boston Celtics as they finished second in the Atlantic Division. They had a little bit of better players. They had Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, a lot of these great players, Jeff Green, Rajon, Marcus Smart was drafted this year. I believe he was a rookie. Gerald Wallace, again, still on the team. Tyler Zeller, like a lot of veteran players, but Brad Stevens got the most out of this roster. Then you move on to the 15-16 season, where he did even better and went 48-34. And when we look at this team, I believe this is the year that I don't know if Jaylen Brown was this year or not, but RJ Hunter was definitely on this team. Jonas Jerebko, Jay Crowder again, Avery Bradley, Jared Sullinger, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier again, another great rookie for us that we let go. Evan Turner, even you remember Evan Turner, Isaiah Thomas, 4-year out of Washington. Finally, we got him on the roster, and we did so much better. And then we move on to the season after, where we went basically. Finished first in the Atlantic, and I believe I can't remember where we were in terms of I would say place in the standings, but then you look at this team. I mean, this is the year that Jaylen Brown was here. You got Jay Crowder. You got so many great players. Al Horford came. This was starting to, I would say that at this point, I thought Danny Ainge did a tremendous job of getting the right players in to really help this team. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas put his heart on the line, and unfortunately, he did get screwed over by the Boston Celtics. They made him play hurt, and I do believe that I think Isaiah Thomas should have sat out on that series. But again, it's hindsight 2020, right? But again, this was a roster. We look at it, not very good, kind of okay. But definitely not something where you're like, okay, this roster is definitely going to be the one to get us over the hump. And then we move on to kind of the years where Jason Tatum officially comes to the roster. A rookie Jason Tatum at this point out of Duke, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this was the Jason Tatum. Yes, this is the Jason Tatum draft. Again, with so many great players, draft Kyrie Irving joined the team. Gordon Hayward joined the team. This was supposed to be the official, okay, the Boston Celtics are back. They're ready. And at this point, I said it was an oven-baked process. This was going to be the process at which Brad Stevens was able to get so much talent, so much of it. This was also the year that Kyrie was hurt, mind you. So this was kind of like a shock to the system where we're like, okay, we can actually do something here. We could actually be a very competitive team. And I believe that it was it was a year before that in the 16-17 season where we were in the NBA conference finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers with a game 7 to go, and we lost that game. And I said, this is going to be it. This is going to be the championship run. This is what's going to get us over the hump and get us to that 18th championship so we can be ahead of the Lakers and, eventually be the number one in the NBA again in terms of championships. And the reason why I went with such a long intro is because I want to set the precedent as to what Brad Stevens has done, not only through the beginning of his tenure, but also towards the end of his tenure. As we now sit in the 2020-2021 season with Brad Stevens at 15-16, Some regard Brad Stevens as one of the smartest coaches in the NBA. It's between him and Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse gets his guys hired. Brad Stevens does not. But again, it's still a very competitive competition between those two because those two's basketball minds are absolutely insane. The way that they're able to get the offenses going, the out of bounds situations where you saw a lot of great plays from guys like Al Horford, guys like Jason Tatum. You saw the great plays. And here we are today where the Boston Celtics at this point sit 15-16. I believe they are 6th in the Eastern Conference right now. And I just want to tell you guys that this, for finishing 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row, I believe in the Eastern Conference Finals, once again, this to me is it's very hard to kind of say that Brad Stevens is at fault here. But if I have to keep it real on the mic, if I have to be truthful, I think it is very much on Brad Stevens as to why the Celtics are struggling. And before we continue talking about Brad Stevens and why I think he is helping us struggle, along with the culprit at hand, the Robin to all this, Danny Ainge, I should say he's the Batman. Brad Stevens is more of the Robin. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Of course, we have many NBA content talking about the NBA. Of course, we have my video from last night talking about how Sabonis got robbed. So many videos on some Gonzaga players, so many videos on Cade Cunningham, the Jalen Green as well, Kuminga, we talked about that, and so much more. So again, guys, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button to get more NBA content like this, where we talk about the NBA news and rumors, and also my basketball opinion. Now that the plug is officially out the way, we can continue on to this story. And kind of where I want to go with this story for everyone that's watching. For some people that might be now, for some people that might be another time. The reason why I struggle to kind of be in this sort of situation where I'm like, it is all Brad Stevens' fault, is because I do believe that the offense is not ran to the way that I would like it. I mean, look at all these texts after last night's game against the Dallas Mavericks where Luka hit the game-winning three because he basically got open. And this was after the Pelicans lost, actually, excuse me. It might be time for Brad Stevens to go. I keep hearing Tatum struggles, and now Kemba has not worked out, but Brad Stevens seems to get a pass in year 7. And I think that these people have valid criticism of Brad Stevens. I mean, if we look at Brad Stevens' kind of demeanor these last couple years, and I will say this, it has not been good in my opinion. I talked about it last year in the bubble where Marcus Smart went at Jaylen Brown to kind of get his game to step up. And what I see here is that we're struggling to move the basketball. And as much as I hate MAGA Hayward, as much as I hate Gordon Hayward, don't really hate him, but more of upset because he wanted so much money, and for some reason the Charlotte Hornets overpaid for him. It is what it is. I'm not going to hate on him. Get your money. Cook your uncooked chicken or uncooked turkey. But what I'm trying to say here, guys, is I do think that we're missing that ball mover that Gordon Hayward was for the Boston Celtics. Right now, I don't believe that we have a very viable point guard option at this point. Jeff Teague is definitely not the Jeff Teague he was a couple years ago. Marcus Smart is hurt. Jaylen Brown is definitely not the guy. He's more of a, get the ball and move out the way. You also have, Daniel Theis, who I think is a nice center, but is he the best center for us at this moment? I don't think so. And then, of course, you have Jason Tatum. Again, another great scorer, but again, is more of a ball stopper, the way that he gets the ball, holds on to it, and doesn't move the offense. And I think that's the thing that Brad Stevens kind of misses the point, and also misses how to run the offense for his guys. I'm not saying that Brad Stevens doesn't know how to run the offense. But you saw with Gordon Hayward last year how easier, and even with Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker's not the same type of guard as Kyrie Irving, or even just kind of one of those ball-moving guards. Like, I understand that for the offense to work, I think Brad Stevens likes an attacking scorer, a guard that is able to attack, make his own shot, and able to finish around the rim, which Kemba Walker is not a great finisher around the rim. He's more of a mid-range kind of specialist. But I do hear everybody's criticism of Brad Stevens at this point. I mean, let's look at a little bit of the offense really quick, if we can kind of tell here. You can hear, we got my show. Make sure to check it out. But let's look at the Celtics and kind of look at their highlights really quick. And kind of look at what's going on. We're going to make sure that we don't pick that one. And we're just going to kind of watch and see the offense as it pertains. Let's see if they can give us a whole possession. Again, Jason Tatum's going to hit those shots, and I have no problem with him, taking those shots. I mean, the one thing I will say here, guys, like, let's look at this and kind of see the situation and read the room, right? So we know that Jaylen Brown right here is going to attack. We see Jason Tatum not even fully ready to even shoot the basketball. It looks like he's kind of just standing still, not in a shooting position. Daniel Theis is a little bit more in position, and I know that Jaylen Brown is a great finisher, but what if Jaylen Brown got stuck? You're going to have to ask for help. You're going to need someone to come in there and actually help out on that situation. Again, Jason Tatum, a lot of dribbles into a shot. Hey, man, I am okay with Jason Tatum taking those shots. But what I'm not okay with is the lack of ball movement that led to that possession. I mean, let's look at the shot clock in that instance, right? I mean, I understand that there was 10 seconds left. They're trying to get into some sort of action to kind of get the defense kind of on their heels. And eventually it didn't work out. And then we see here number 7 for the Dallas Mavericks. Late closeout. Tatum was able to finish. And again, we're just looking at the Boston Celtics highlights. I know that the Dallas Mavericks highlights are in here, so apologize for that. But let's kind of wait a little bit. Okay, it looks like we got a highlight here. Again, we have Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum on this high pick and roll ball screen. Meanwhile, I believe that this was they were kind of trying to do a double screen on the side here with Kemba deciding if the guy decides to, whichever way he plays, he's going to attack. But obviously it looks like the spacing was a little bit bad on this side with Daniel Theis here. Pelicans fans 4. Celtics suck because of how the team is constructed. And, we will be talking about that. You're going to have to trade Kemba. And I do hear you on that. And we will talk about that in just a sec. But I just kind of wanted to break this down for you guys. Like, look, we see Richardson back off of Kemba. Great shot. That's something that, Kemba needs to get better at. And Kemba obviously has not been playing this well for us so far. And these are the kind of ball movement that I want to see continuously. But you see here how long it's, the highlights. So again, let's watch the screen and roll here. Great play by Daniel Theis. I'm not sure if that was a goaltending, but again. Sorry, not trying to change the subject, but what do you think of the Celtics trading for Thad Young and a first rounder? He's been balling out this year for the Bulls, and I think he'd be a great fit for the C's. I think for a first rounder, that might be a lot. Eoy, I understand he's been balling out, and I know that Zach LaVine has called him the MVP of the team. But I think that a first would be too much. If Danny Ainge isn't going to give you a first for any of the players that have been rumored to come to the Boston Celtics, then I don't think he's going to give anybody a first for Thad Young. I do think that Thad Young is definitely a key part for your offense in Chicago. But I think you guys should keep him because I think you guys could make a playoff spot, and sneak in there if he's included on that roster. Zach LaVine has been balling out. This is kind of the expectations of Zach LaVine right now. So I think you guys should honestly keep him and not kind of try and play that lottery system. So that's kind of what I would say. Kind of going to your point, Pelicans fan. I mean, I think they do have to start looking to trade Kemba Walker because I don't think that Kemba Walker has worked out with the way that Brad Stevens or even Danny Ainge, specifically Danny Ainge, has asked for. Because we know that Danny Ainge kind of viewed Kemba Walker as like a mini Kyrie, someone that can create their own shot, create their own drives to assist, but I think Kyrie is such a special player, man. Like, it's not a disrespect to Kemba Walker because I know what Kemba Walker's about. But, man, I just don't think that there is a Kyrie replacement. I know Brad Stevens wants to run that offense where it's like you have a scoring guard. I mean, we saw that with Isaiah Thomas, scoring guard, Kyrie Irving, a scoring guard, and now Kemba Walker, a scoring guard. But Kemba Walker is not even remotely close. Not even remotely close, in my opinion, to the same type of player as a Kyrie Irving. Like we said, I'm not trying to even and you are right, Pelicans fan. I don't think that Kemba's a fit because defensively he's such a liability, and we saw it last year exposed in the playoffs. And I've been saying that since last year in the playoff series that I have here on this channel. I talked about it here. I'm not sure if I was live streaming at that point, but I definitely was video talking about it. He's a liability to our team defensively. We saw what happened when you get the switch on Kemba. It's attack Kemba all the time. It's, and it's whoever offense on Kemba Walker. And that's just something that I don't want seeing happening consistently each and every time that Kemba Walker's on the court. Kemba Walker's coming back from a really, significant knee injury. So we know that his knee injury is also what's causing some of the problem as well. And so he's definitely not he's not at full strength. And 2, he's just a small guy. And unfortunately, and I'm included in that category. Small guys, it's unfortunate, but our offensive output has to outmatch our liability for defense sometimes. I'm not, I would say that I'm a pretty decent defender, but like I'm not trying to even compare myself remotely to these, great athletes. But even the greatest small athlete has to realize that a bigger, stronger guard is going to outmuscle you, especially as it comes to the paint and you get that post-up touch. And that's the reason why Jimmy Butler killed us last year in the playoffs, and the reason why the Miami Heat moved on to the NBA Finals, and why we're sitting at home once again from the Eastern Conference Finals. But I do agree with you, Pelicans fan. I do think that Kemba Walker needs to get traded. I think me and Tyrese, another person on the channel here, we've talked about it before. It's like, you have to get something for Kemba Walker, or else the problem is too, Pelicans fan, and it's just kind of coming into my mind is like, what's the value of Kemba Walker? I would love, hey, Pelicans fan, I am, and I'm not sure if you know this, but I am a huge, and me and my boy Pete, we do this channel again. Logan, Brad also included here, but me and Brad, and specifically me before Brad came on the show, I am a huge Lonzo Ball fan. I know that a lot of people don't like Lonzo Ball. I know a lot of people are going to say he's a bust, but man, that defense, that hustle, I would love for a guy like Lonzo Ball to be part of this team, because I think that he could bring us great success if he was included into this team. And the problem is, Pelicans fan, and kind of what I was going at before, is like, what's the value of Kemba Walker at this point? Maybe a year ago or 2 years ago when he was kind of moving from Charlotte to Boston, that was probably his highest trade value that you could have for any player. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that Kemba Walker is a all-star. I believe he was an all-star, but I could be wrong on that. But let me double check. Kemba Walker, I believe he was an all-star for he was an all-star for 4 seasons. He averaged 25 points per game. He averaged, the most he averaged was that year in Charlotte, where he averaged 25 points per game. I mean, he was above average. He was above 21 points per game, and that's something that we definitely need from a scoring guard. I mean, if we look at Isaiah Thomas's numbers, if we look at Kyrie Irving's numbers when he was playing, all those guards averaged more than 20 points per game, or averaged at least more than 22 points per game, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Isaiah was a little bit lower, maybe he's a little bit higher, and the same thing for Kyrie. But those two guys could create their own offense. They did so many amazing things. But again, it just led to us being disappointed in the finals once again. And I think with the healthy Kyrie, it might have been a different story, in my opinion, in that playoff series. I know we played better without Kyrie, but again, how are you going to play better when one of the best players in the league is not on your roster healthy? And so I think we're just going to have to live with the result of what happened, and that's just kind of the reality of it. And like I said, Pelicans fan, it is going to be so hard to move the guy, just because we know that a lot of teams are going to undervalue him. And a lot of teams are going to be like, well, we also want that first-round pick, or, well, we also want Marcus Smart. It's no longer just like, okay, Kemba Walker has that really high trade value, and you can be like, okay, I'm going to trade you Kemba Walker straight up for, a star player or all-star player. That's just not going to happen now. And that's just kind of the reality of the Boston Celtics at this point. And again, just kind of watching some more highlights, and I kind of want to just skip a lot of the the reason why I want to skip the Mavericks highlights, because I really want to focus in on what's going on for the Celtics highlights. Again, screen, Peyton Pritchard, another great rookie, double screen. Again, great offense. I do think that the Celtics do get great looks. The offense is not bad. But I just, and I think, Pelicans fan, I just think that he's too injury prone and too small, in my opinion, to really warrant him to be a guy that you can rely on each and every night. We saw what happened with Isaiah Thomas. For a guy that, is so amazingly offensively gifted, and, I'm not criticizing Isaiah Thomas. I love him. But you saw how easily it was for him to get hurt. And the same thing goes for Kyrie Irving. Same thing goes for a guy like Kemba Walker. Those guys get hurt often because the smaller you are, the more banged up you get when you go in the land of the trees. Guys that are 6'5" and higher. That's just the reality of NBA. It's just these guys are so big, so tall, that you are going to get hurt eventually. And again, we see here Robert Williams, a guy that I want to see play more. I don't know why we're so enamored with Daniel Theis. I understand he can shoot, and I know that he's been stepping his game up a little bit, but in my opinion, why are we wasting Robert Williams' valuable growth and not having him start? And my other question was why did we get Tristan Thompson? In my opinion, why did we get him if we have a guy in Robert Williams who could play that role for us? Now, is Robert Williams the best like low post scorer in the world compared to Tristan Thompson? No, I'm not saying that. But if you want a guy that gets rebounds, that shot blocks, and you want to play another big with another big, why not have Robert Williams and Daniel Theis play together more often? And not sign a guy like Tristan Thompson where we could use that money for another player, where we could use that money to get a different type of player that we could get that could actually help our team win games. And I just don't believe that that's the case at this point. Again, we're going to skip the Mavericks highlights. Again, another Peyton Pritchard look. Great looks everywhere. I mean, we even see it here. We see some people falling asleep. We see kind of a situation where Peyton Pritchard gets really deep in the paint. You know, he could alley-oop it just because he has that mismatch with Robert Williams, and I believe that's Richardson. I'm not sure who number 11 is for the Dallas Mavericks. I know Richardson 0. Even then, you know, you can make that skip past to Semi Ojeleye because of the way that this guy is guarding, the way that this number 11 is guarding Robert Williams. But again, this was a smart play because Boban is not as mobile, and if you throw that oop, Robert Williams is going to go get it. And that's the thing, guys. Like the reason why, you know, what's frustrating for me about the Boston Celtics is more so their defense as well. I mean, we're giving up some bad looks. We're giving up second chances. I mean, let's look at the Celtics stats as it compares to their stats at this moment, and just kind of like team stats. Let me see if I have, where is this website? See if I can find this. I wish it would tell me if I can find it. I'm trying to find the... There's like a really good website. Let me see here if it's the lineup. So we can look at the defensive rating, and let me go here and then go offensive rating. Let me see if I can find it here on this website. We can go from defense to offense. Okay, perfect. And we see here that the Boston Celtics, I believe, are kind of like in that middle territory. But let's look at offense from the Boston Celtics perspective. I mean, the Boston Celtics are kind of near the middle to middle bottom of the NBA right now. I mean, we look here, we look at their wins, their losses. Like, it's definitely very average. You know, you look at kind of the points, they're 21st. You look at the total rebounds, they're 17th. Offense, we're high just because of Tristan Thompson. Assists, 28th in the league. I mean, here's the thing. Like, this screams that we need an actual point guard and not an offensive scoring guard. Like, look at the situation. We are 28th in offense, 19th in turnovers, 17th in field goals made, 16th in field goals attempted. 3-pointers attempted. We're kind of near the dead last of the league. Free throws attempted, we're fine, kind of a little bit. We're 23rd or 21st, excuse me, in free throw, or I believe 21st in what is that, shooting percentage. I mean, we are struggling right now, guys. We're not in a situation where the Boston Celtics are absolutely killing it. If we look here at the Boston Celtics, like I said, you know, the numbers are not looking good. We look at kind of the offensive ratings. We look at all the stats comparisons to what's going on. And it is honestly really bad. Like, I understand that, like, in terms of 3-point percentage, we're good. In terms of, you know, offensive rebounding, we're good. But there's other stats, too, that really worry me as it pertains. I mean, defensive rebounding, we're 23rd in the league. Like, that should tell you everything you need to know about the Boston Celtics at this point. Like, we're not a team that's ready to compete whatsoever. And that's really unfortunate because I really do like this team. But the offensive, I would say the makeup of this team is what's killing me for everything that I'm seeing here for Boston. Like when I look at a guy like Brad Stevens, I have to put some of the onus on him. I mean, this is your team. You have to get your team in order. You have to get your team in check. And we're gonna have to figure something out for this roster, because right now it's just not, we're not playing to the best of our ability. I mean, the pace is 24th in the league. That's terrible. You know, 3-pointers made, we're 18th. So we know that 3-pointers are not kind of our specialty. They're not our main offense, but we still take, a decent amount of threes. Turnovers for 17th. I'm not, 17th is kind of on the lower end, but it's still pretty bad. I mean, there's some games I think we could have won without those turnovers. And, I'm not even, the thing is, like, I can include turnovers just as a stat, but you also have to include attempts as well. Like the fact that we're shooting so many shots, giving up so many early possessions, and that's what's leading to fast break opportunities for the other team. Like, to be honest with you guys, I am flabbergasted and shocked as to how we can even compete in the NBA right now. The fact that we're sixth is lucky to me. I said it before, teams like Brown, Tatum, Smart, and a bunch of guys. And it is just a bunch of guys, and that's the unfortunate part of it, Eoy. I would love an NBA roster. I would love to get some of those trades back, especially in that year where we got Romeo Langford or even Naismith. Like, I know that Naismith is starting to get his minutes now. He's starting to actually come up, but is Naismith and Langford two guys that we got in the draft last year? I'm confused. Like, I think the Celtics needed to trade up in this last draft and get Tyrese Halliburton or get Tyrese Maxey. I don't care who you have to get, but get one of those guys, please. And we could have done something there. We could have actually gone and gotten some great players. But unfortunately, this is the result of the Boston Celtics playing overall, and points per game were terrible, and assists is absolutely god-awful. Like, I just can't believe that we're 26th in assists. And that, to me, honest with you, is kind of also another reason why the Celtics struggle tremendously, is because who is our point guard at this point? We don't have a pure point guard, a guy that can get anybody the ball. And the Pelicans fan, you were right about it. Like, Kemba Walker's not going to be doing that. And it's just kind of just a sad situation that Brad Stevens, and also I think the most blame has to go on Danny Ainge. Because there should have been moves that were made. If you wanted to get a guy, go ahead. We were hearing all of these rumors during the draft, like, oh, Danny Ainge has a secret trade that's coming up. He's looking to get so much better. He's looking to add so many pieces. And at the end of the day, what was really added? What did we add that really helped us? Other than Peyton Pritchard, which I really do love the pickup for us. But other than that, like, what else was picked up where I'm like, yes, this is going to be the person that's going to help us win a championship? Absolutely no one. And like I said, maybe Peyton Pritchard. But these last couple drafts, we have absolutely gotten goose eggs on who we think could help us win a championship, who could help us be those role players. Because when the second unit comes in for the Boston Celtics, I'm just praying that we don't give up like a 10-point lead that Brown and Tatum give us. But at the same time, I also have to keep the same energy for a guy like Tatum, for a guy like Brown. Guys need to start moving the ball more and adding more ball movement to allow the team to kind of play some great offense that normally, you would give those shots to Tatum and Brown. But if you give everybody else kind of like if you run the offense, and I don't know why Brad Stevens kind of went away from this, and now we're kind of seeing a situation where I don't even recognize my team anymore. I don't even recognize who the Boston Celtics are at this point. And again, I do have a lot of the blame has to go to Danny Ainge because of the way this team is constructed. Like Pelicans fan said, this team is constructed to basically be a first round pie and buy type of team. They're not going to stay for a while. They're going to be here for maybe a little bit. And, this team is tremendously worse than last year's team, which is crazy to think about when last year's team was kind of like, it was okay. This was the year Kemba Walker, I believe, was kind of like, I believe in the second year, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're just kind of seeing here right now what's going on here. And so that is what's kind of frustrating for me, in my opinion, as to why the Celtics, one, are struggling, and two, the reason why, as a Celtics fan that has kind of been beaten down each and every time that I see, I can't be I'm obviously going to support them, but I'm just not expecting anything this year. I'm not expecting the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I'm not even expecting a great playoff series, at least one round and then high and by. Like I'm just expecting just to get in, get our, we're dangerously close to that play-in game from the 7 to 10 seed, and I just don't want that happening. I don't want to be in the situation where we're basically just going to be battling for our lives just to get in the playoffs at this point. We're dangerously close to that 7th seed, and I did go on a very hyperventilative rant with my boy Brad and Logan on that situation at hand. Like, it is honestly very frustrating to see that this is where we're at the moment with the Boston Celtics. And as we kind of continue to watch a little bit more of the highlights from last night's game, some great things, but look at this defense. So many miscommunications, so much bad movement, so much bad, help. Let me see here some great passing. Again, let's look at this defense. I mean, obviously Luka is a generational talent. Like, you can't hate on Luka. Again, we'll just watch a little bit of the highlights. We see Peyton Pritchard pull up for 3. Just bad defense there, and that just starts from Tatum. I understand you're the offensive juggernaut for the team, but you got to take some pride in defense, man. Good shot. I mean, the thing with Tatum, and I will say this, I understand that I went on yesterday and said that Tatum probably should not have gotten an all-star spot. Is the playing against the best of 3? I believe it's the best of 3 with the 7 and 10 seed. With I think if I'm not mistaken, Eoy, I think the 7 and 8 seed get an advantage where they only have to play 1 game and they're in, compared to the 9 and 10 seed where I believe they have to win 2. So at least that's what it was last year. I'll have to double check on the rules on that one. But I think that's how it was last year. I would not be surprised if they changed the rule this year, just because obviously it's a new time right now. We don't know what's going on. So that might be something to look out for in the near future. Again, not sure how Grant Williams got absolutely lost in this play. I don't know how Grant Williams got lost in this play. I don't know how he got lost in that play. Again, pick and roll. Again, dribble. And that's the thing. Like, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are definitely going to be players that can get you very far with the talent that they have. But with all that great talent, you still have to have plays for them to run that don't allow them to do this ISO ball stuff. Like, I understand that Brad Stevens has changed his philosophy throughout the years, but I feel like he's changed it for the wrong reason. He's changed it in a way that is very disappointing to see, that, the way that the Celtics play with their isolation ball with Tatum, who doesn't take a standstill 3, or Brown, who is constantly, trying to pick and roll, weave his way through the middle and take a nice open midi. And his favorite 3 is the corner 3. But what else am I going to get from this Boston Celtics team? I'm not getting anything of importance. I'm not getting anything that's good, and I'm just getting some really bad play. Again, pick and roll. That's just a great shot. You got to give it to Luka on that. Can't hate. Just a broken play that led to a shot. Grant Williams getting blown by. Pick and roll. Good jumper. Or a good little pull up in the middle. Again, blown by. That should be an and one. Good post finish. Again, Just looking at the situation at hand, the passing. And let's look at this situation. Tatum misses, but great rebound by Brown, able to go back up and finish. I mean, like I said, like if those two guys aren't doing the offense or if those two guys aren't scoring, we are absolutely sucking. I mean, what is our bench points really giving us? I mean, like I said, let's look at the Boston Celtics stats in terms of team. I mean, let's go back here and look at the team stats, player stats, and really see what the team is giving us in terms of the bench. Semi Ojeleye, one of the lower ratings. Daniel Theis, you have Tristan Thompson, Kemba Walker. I mean, this to me is just kind of showing you that the points are very like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum centric, and then everybody else gets their points here and there. But it is kind of disappointing to see kind of what's going on here. And I'm not sure if we can look at this really quick. And I'm getting disappointed with the Boston Celtics, man. It's hard to keep going on and talking about them when they constantly disappoint me, when they constantly disappoint Celtics fans across the nation. And really, I don't know what else I can say, man. It looks like there's a lot of trading baskets. The Bulls play-by-play guy, Stace King, who's on the... People always say a team should try and get 5 stops in a row to gain momentum. And the thing is, Eoy, I don't think that the Celtics can get those stops because defensively, we're kind of like okay. We're not the greatest defense. We're not the greatest situation. I mean, we're kind of like average as it pertains to like defensive rebounding. We're allowing second chance points with those low rebounding numbers. I mean, we're near the bottom. I mean, I don't think that this is a good number. I mean, I'll have to check to see the tapes. Assists allowed is good. Steals allowed is good. But then you get to field goal percentage allowed. You get to blocks. Like blocks, I'm not really concerned with. For me, it's more so like the forced turnovers. We don't really force the turnovers the way that I would like. 3-point percentage allowed. We're really good at that. 35%. That's a low number. That's an average. That's below average. Even though I do say 34% should be an average that someone should shoot, but as a team, you probably should shoot around like 40%. Maybe even a little higher. And like I said, I'm just disappointed with the Boston Celtics right now. I've been more mad about the Celtics before on this channel. But it gets to a point where you just kind of feel that you get sick of seeing the same results. It's kind of like, trying to, what's the, I can't remember what the phrase is or what the saying is, but it's like basically pushing a rock up a mountain for it just to roll back down, and you keep doing it back and forth. I can't remember what Greek story that was, but that's the way that the Boston Celtics are at the moment. At one point, you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum pushing up that rock to get it on the top so you win, and then when we lose, it rolls all the way back down because Tatum and Brown are not playing their best basketball. And as guys that are kind of the leaders of the team, for the guys that are the all-stars of the team, I expect a lot more. 15-16 is not going to cut it for me. And I believe the Celtics are playing tonight, if I'm not mistaken. You look at the points per game average, Kemba Walker, 17, way below average. Then you got Marcus Smart at 13, and then the rest is just kind of average at best. I mean, Jeff Teague, 5.5, not going to cut it. Grant Williams at 5.2. Naismith at 3.8. I mean, you're not getting much from all these guys, and that's the frustrating part. And I do believe that Robert Williams should be getting a little bit more minutes, should be playing a little bit more, but maybe the numbers don't say he should be. And maybe that's on me to kind of figure out as to why he's not playing. For a guy that shoots the best percentage on the team, you'd expect him to play a little bit more, expect him to have a little bit more of a say in the offense, say in what happens. But, at the end of the day, it is a frustrating situation to see that the Boston Celtics have absolutely butchered kind of the oven-baked process and have officially ruined this cake for any Boston Celtics fan to enjoy, for any Celtics fan to get excited about this team. But I think I'm just going to leave it there, guys. I know that it's not the hour that we're used to, but it's just tiring to talk about the Celtics. It's tiring to kind of keep continually find why they're good, why they're bad. And at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with the Boston Celtics. I believe they play tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look at their schedule. They play... Today's the 24th. They play the Atlanta Hawks today against Trae Young, which we lost, I believe. We won one. We lost one. So let's see if we can get a win tonight. I'll be curious to see if we can actually do it. But Anyway, guys, that is going to do it here for the charge. Thank you once again for joining me here. Pelicans fans, Eoy, thank you so much for joining me in the live chat. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this whole situation? Is Brad Stevens time to go? What's going on? Like, let me know as a Boston Celtics fan, or maybe even as an outside fan, what do you guys think about the situation at hand as it pertains to the Boston Celtics? Who's at fault? Who's the person that we should be looking at? Is it the players? Is it Brad Stevens? Is it Danny Ainge? Let me know who we should be looking at as to the reason why the Celtics have been struggling so much throughout this whole season. Anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining me here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. I'll see every one of you guys here tomorrow to talk some more basketball. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going on, the All-Star, maybe talk about a little bit of that stuff, but also kind of just, see what else is out there in the news and rumors, because I know that there is a lot of interesting stuff coming up, especially as the tournament continues to kind of rear its head. We're going to see what's going on for the NCAA tournament. We're also going to see what's going on for those lottery draft picks, as well as we talk about Jalen Johnson, another player that we probably should be talking about as to why he decided to part ways with Duke. But again, we will be talking about that at another date. Anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.